Hi everyone. I'm so sorry I can't be with you physically, but I'm so glad I can connect with you today virtually for this wonderful Sunday. It's my favorite of the whole year, Flower Communion Sunday. And right now I want to share with you the story of Norbert Čapek's Flower Communion, or Flower Ceremony, as he called it, as written by the Reverends Teresa and David Schwartz from the First Unitarian Society of Chicago. His mother was a devout Catholic, his father an agnostic. He became an acolyte at the age of 10 in 1890 at St. Martin's Catholic Church. In the following years, though, he became more and more disillusioned. In fact, he said his priest was a cynic. Well, at 18, he apprenticed with his uncle, a very successful tailor in Vienna, and that's when and where he discovered Baptists, and Norbert Čapek became a minister. A very enthusiastic minister. In fact, in a very short period of time, he founded about a dozen congregations from the Ukraine to Budapest. That's amazing. Yet, even with all that enthusiasm and all that work, he slowly found that his faith was becoming more and more liberal. Well, under a threat from the government, he left Bohemia and accepted a call to serve a church in New York City. Until one day in 1919. That day, he wrote in his diary this: "I cannot be a Baptist anymore, even in compromise. The fire of new desires, new worlds is burning inside of me." Unquote. Norbert and his wife, Maya Čapek, joined a Unitarian church in New Jersey in 1921 for the same reason that probably a lot of people joined the Green Bay Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, because their children liked the religious education program. So I guess that's the power of our religious exploration teachers, and it's also the power of kids to influence their parents, right? I digress. Back to the story. World War I ended, 1919, and his home country was now independent. He and Maya returned home to Czechoslovakia. He founded a Unitarian church. It was called the Prague Liberal Religious Fellowship, yet another fellowship in our lives. And in just 20 years, his membership grew to 3,200. Now, Čapek realized that the traditional Christian communion service of bread and wine was not going to work for his community, because there's a lot of members who believed many different things, just like ours is here. Čapek turned to the beauty of the countryside for a solution to the beauty of flowers. In 1923, 101 years ago, he developed this flower ceremony that we are going to use again today. He asked his congregants to bring a flower to the church, from their gardens, from the field, from the roadside as they walked to church. And he invited each person to place their flower in a vase. And there, in all of those vases, was the church community, no less unique for being united. Following the service, each person was invited to take a flower from a vase, a different one than what they brought, just like we're going to do. Now, Čapek, you can tell from the creation of this ceremony, was a very visionary minister with a church way ahead of its time, a bold church, a church thinking beyond its doors, beyond what it thought possible. It was a church that was willing to take risks, to make tough decisions, to bear disappointment, and to build a new way. First, by building a fellowship out of nothing, but then this fellowship, this church, could help build up the world around it, the community of Prague, Czechoslovakia, that part of Europe. Well, that's sort of the same mission as our church or fellowship, and that was what was happening with Čapek's church at the same time. There's some similarities here. But for this, all this innovativeness, the Gestapo arrested him in 1942. They accused Čapek of listening to foreign broadcasts, which was against the law, of course, and sent him to the Dachau concentration camp. But even in starvation and torture, he held a flower ceremony with the other prisoners. They used whatever little scraps of flowers they could find growing up in the weeds, because it was a testimonial of a beauty larger than themselves and a love that they knew would outlive them. The Nazis killed Norbert Čapek, but his spirit, his courage, and commitment live on today. Those qualities have passed now to us to make them real. His wife Maya brought the flower ceremony to the Unitarian Church in Cambridge, Massachusetts in 1940. Now, what we're about to do here in Green Bay is not a historical reenactment of something over and done, but an affirmation of our continuity with the generations of struggle for ever-widening liberty and freedom of expression. The flower ceremony, lovely though it isn't a diversion from an ugly reality, but a gentle fierceness, which proclaims that in the midst of sinister days ahead, there is always the light of beauty. We're not here to recall something that happened, but to remember something that is happening right here. To remember, to put back together again. And in that remembering, may we put ourselves back together again, each as a part of the body of this fellowship, of this community, out of the many, one, just like the flowers in one massive bouquet. Today, we celebrate the ritual of solemnity, community, and joy. As Čapek asked his people to bring a flower and celebrate beauty, so shall we. May it be so.